Hello, and welcome to Abramovic Experiment. Please take very relaxed position on the seats. Don't cross your legs because you're blocking circulation. Relax. Breathe slowly and deeply. Performance is time-based art. Performance is living form of art. And also performance is immaterial form of art. It's very important for the public to understand and feel for themselves. So Abramovic Experiment is a kind of summary of all different knowledge I have through the 40 years of my work to bring the public to the point of experimenting for themselves. We built 3 basic objects to create 3 basic positions of a human body, which is standing, sitting, lying. Public have to sign the contract with me. They have to give me the word of honor. They will stay in installation without leaving for entire 2 hours. After this, I will give them certificate of accomplishment to thank them for the trust. It's very simple exchange. If you give me your time, I give you experience. If you don't give me your time, there is no experience. I was born just after the war, 46. This was a kind of costume I always remember. It's for me so significant to wear this uniform. It's like a blueprint of that kind of military structure, education, and I really believe that you have to sacrifice everything for the cause. There is something that is higher and more important than yourself.
I'm tired of changing planes so often. Waiting in the waiting rooms, bus stations, train stations.
I come from Orthodox background. My grandmother was always going to the church. As a child, I used to go with her. So after that, I stopped painting and I start realizing that I can use any material I want, fire, water, and the body. At the moment when I started using the body, it was such an enormous satisfaction that I had, and that I can communicate with the public that I never could do anything else. I could never go back to the seclusion of the studio and being protected by the space there. The only way of expression is to perform. So, I am not a painter, even if I studied being a painter a long time, and then I really was not interesting anymore to be in a kind of studio space and creating two-dimensional works. And when I started working with my body, this was really the big realization that I become performance artist. And to me, being performance artist in the 70s was very hard, because it's something, you can't live from performance art. You can't. You have to do other things, like I was teaching most of the time to support myself. Because performance work is really when artists create mental and physical space in the front of audience for first time, without rehearsing, without playing somebody else. And it's a kind of reality dialogue with the audience and the performer. And that's a really big difference than theater. And this is what I've been doing the last, I don't know, almost 40 years. I could say the performance is the moment when the performer, with his own idea, step in his own mental and physical construction in the front of the audience in particular time. You see, it's not a theater. Theater you repeat. Theater you play somebody else. Theater is a black box. Performance is real. In the theater, you can cut with a knife and there is a blood. The knife is not real and blood is not real. In performance, the blood and the knife and the body of the performer is real.
Abramovic performed Rhythm Zero, in which she stood impassively and put herself completely in the hands of her audience.
I was standing there in the middle of the space with this table with objects. I put the objects on the table very carefully chosen because the objects was for pleasure and there was also the object for pain and objects that can bring you to death.
Some of the objects included were a rose, a feather, grapes, honey, a whip, a scalpel, a gun, and a bullet.
In the beginning, the public was really very much playing with me. Later on, became more and more aggressive. It was 6 hours of real horror. They will cut my clothes, they will cut me with a knife close to my neck, drink my blood, and then put a plaster over the wound. They will carry me around half naked, put me on the table, and stuff the knife between my legs into the wood. And even somebody put a bullet in the pistol and put in my hand and seeing if I pressing it, her hand against my hand, if I will resist. But I remember after 6 hours when the galleries come and say this piece, it's finished, that I start being by myself. I start walking to the audience, naked and with blood and, tears in my eyes. Everybody ran away, literally ran out of the door.
When I was young, I would have different ideas to do work. It was never linear. So I never wanted to develop kind of certain style that I would be recognized. So I would have this obsession about one thing, and then I had to do it. And mostly I will do the work that I'm afraid of. If I'm really afraid of idea, this is exactly the point I have to go. Because if you do things you like, you never change. There is nowhere to go. You're always doing the same shit again and again. But if you do things that you don't know, the things you're afraid of, something really different, then it's really important to go to this different pattern and something different happen. So many artists say when they perform they don't see public, they come into some kind of zone, or their public is not important to them, they're doing for themselves. And for me it's very different. For me the public complete the piece. For me without public a performance doesn't have any sense. In the deeper sense is about hospitality, is that you actually open yourself to the public and show your vulnerability, your contradictions, and be there in the full sense for them. Then in Thomas Lip's piece I use honey, I use wine. Then I have lots of work with the spirit cooking recipes, which I actually create my own recipes for spirit cooking, which is uneatable. And I made them as a graffitis on the wall using pig blood as the closest to the human blood. One of the spirit cooking recipe will be with a sharp knife, cut deeply into the finger of your hand, eat the pain. Oh, it's plenty of advices I can give the young artist. But I think that one of the main, for me, question is if somebody is an artist at all. Because, it's just, you can proclaim yourself young artist, maybe you're not artist, or you can be, better off doing something else. So when I was teaching, this was one of the tests I will ask, how you know you're an artist. That's the main question. And, to know if you're an artist or not is like a breathing. You don't question breathing. You have to breathe, otherwise you just die, so you breathe. So if you wake up in the morning and you have some ideas and you have to make them, and this become like a kind of almost obsession, and you have to create, and you have this urge to create, you're definitely an artist. But you're not a great artist, you're just an artist. To be a great artist, that's all different types of rules. And you really have to kind of, it's like you're obsessed. It's like it's nothing else in your mind till you realize the work, and this is this complexity of the intensity of that you put into work. And also, I think the great artists have to be ready to fail, which is not too many people do. Because when you have success, in a certain way, then and the public accept you in a certain way. You start somehow involuntarily reproducing the same images, the same type of work, and you're not risking. And the real artists, always change their territories, and they go to the land they've never been, and there is unknown territory, and then you can fail and you can risk, and that failure actually is what makes this extra, ready to fail. That makes great artists.